Good day, 19. I was going to say good evening, but it's almost good morning. And so um, it is day 19 of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, 2023 edition. My name is LD Robinson, and I am excited to be back here reading with you today. Um, And before we get started, I do want to tell you that we are going to post our other readings. I had a snafu the other night. I was recording, and typically I go live and with our readings. And this particular one, I was recording and realized that I had the wrong banners on the bottom. So I couldn't air it. And so, due to very busy days, we missed a couple of days, which we don't like to do at all. So, we will put those up for you tomorrow. And so, today is day 19 of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day. And we will be reading today from Young Adult and Teen. It is YA Day. Yay, yay. Before we get started with our selection for today, we want to remind you that you can subscribe to our website at greatblackreadaloudday.org and stay abreast of all the things that we're doing. You can catch our reading list and the selections that have been made for this year, and also those that have been submitted beyond just with our readership. So if you would like to read, we do encourage you to read. You can read, and we use the reading in terms of education, so in terms of fair use for educational purposes. And so please don't read anyone's whole book. um, we just want to encourage and enlighten people about the very broad range of literature by Black people all around the world. And so that's what we're doing here, the International Great Black Read Aloud Day. We are giving voice to words written by Black people all around the world, all different types of genres and categories of books. And so we take and divide things up between 28, 29 days of different genres. And so we are super excited about that. And it's always so interesting when we're making selections for our reads and just coming across very different things. Some things are from our immediate libraries, and other things are that we seek out to find something or someone different in a particular category. And so we hope you are enjoying the reads. And so our selection for today is for day 19, young adult and teen. Our selection for today is Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson. And as always, we like to show you the cover. And here you are. And we are going to read. Um, this is a YA teen book, and so the chapters are you know succinct, and so we're going to read chapter 2 and I think chapter 3. And our selection for today again is Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson. I should say very award-winning Jacqueline Woodson, and I think this is her second time making our list. And so our reading list, and it's always very interesting coming across her work. The first week of September, the rain wouldn't stop. Rivers ran along the curbs and at the corner near our school. Cars had stalled in the middle of the huge pools of rainwater. Even though it was still warm outside, our classroom felt damp and a little bit cold. Some of the kids were playing with those spinner things. One boy, whose name I forget, had his head down on his desk. I remember his dark curls, the way they fell over his arm. For some reason, those curls spiraling over his arm and down onto the scratched up desk made me sadder than anything. There were 8 of us then. Our small class had come together because the school wanted to try something new. Could they put 8 kids together in a room with one teacher and make something amazing? 8 special kids. Even though they didn't say it, we knew there was something different about us. We had all been in the big classroom before, and our learning felt like a race we were losing while the other kids sped ahead. We made believe we didn't care that we learned differently, but we knew we did. And the school knew we did. The school knew we got laughed at and teased in the big yard, and that some days we faked stomach aches and sore throats to stay home. It was only September, so no one knew if this experiment would work. But our teacher, Miss Laverne, was tall and soft spoken and patient. We loved her immediately, and the school itself had huge windows and brightly colored walls. My uncle said it was one of the best schools in the city. I had been there with Holly since first grade, so I didn't really have any other schools to compare it to. But if nice teachers and rooms filled with lots of windows made something the best, then I guess it was true. By the end of that rainy week, the boy with the curls had moved away, and another girl's mom had come in and fussed about her daughter being smarter than those children, while Miss Laverne shushed her and guided her and her daughter gently out of the room. The girl looked like she wanted to sink into the floor and disappear. We never saw her again, but sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if she had gotten a chance to be part of the art room, if she'd gotten to hear what we heard, see what we saw. After she and the curly-haired boy left, only Miss Laverne and the six of us remained. An hour after class started on that Friday, Esteban came in, his head down, his hair slicked wet against his forehead, his Yankees cap dripping with rain. He walked straight to his seat without looking at the rest of us. I watched him sink into his seat so sadly and heavily it felt like the whole room shivered. His jacket was way too big for him, the shoulders hanging down his arms, the sleeves falling over his hands. I didn't know Esteban yet. I didn't know anyone but Holly really, but I wanted to go over to him, hug him hard. I didn't care how dripping wet he was. No one should ever have to look that sad. Do you have a late pass for me, Esteban? Miss Laverne asked. She was standing at the front of the room, her arm stretched out toward the smart board. I don't remember what was on it, maybe a globe. Our tiny group that year was a fifth, sixth grade class. This, too, was a school experiment. Is everything okay? Miss Laverne's dark brown face was crisscrossed with worry. Esteban shook his head. I don't have a pass, he said, his voice breaking. We think they took my puppy. Nobody knows where he's at. He put his head down on his desk, his face turned toward the window. Miss Laverne went over to Esteban's desk and bent toward him, her hand on his back. They spoke softly to each other. Maybe they spoke for 5 minutes. Maybe it was an hour. I don't remember. That was a long time ago. So much can change in a minute, an hour, a year. While Miss Laverne talked to Esteban about his father that morning, I thought about mine. I thought about handcuffs. I thought about fathers being taken away. I thought about uncles coming to the rescue and mothers gone. The memory is mostly shadows now. My father's pale hands hanging from silver handcuffs. The cops pushing his head down into the police car. My uncle com- my uncle coming to me and lifted me up in his arms. I was 3 years old. When my uncle first came to live with me, I was afraid. It was this vague fear around the edges of myself. Whenever I got real quiet in class, Miss Laverne knew why. As I watched Esteban that morning, I felt it. The fear coming around the corner, finding me, finding both of us. I stared over at him. I wanted to give Esteban the same sign, my pinky pointing toward him while my thumb pointing toward me. I wanted to say, I know that thing, Esteban. I looked out the window that same way. Miss Laverne turned from Esteban and told us to read quietly to ourselves. We took our books from our bags and opened them. I don't know if any of us read a single word. The whole world felt wide open suddenly, like it wanted to swallow us. I heard him tell Miss Laverne, I'm scared. I'm so, so scared. When the lunch bell rang, Esteban stayed behind. I wanted to touch his shoulder as I walked out and say, "It won't always feel like the first day. It won't always feel this bad." But I didn't. I let the words hang in my throat until Holly grabbed my hand and pulled me down the hall with her. Behind us, I heard Amari say, "E, what's going on? Talk to me, bruh." If there's one thing I do remember as clear as it happened an hour ago, it's the afternoon when Miss Laverne said to us, "Put down your pencils and come with me." It was the end of September and we had been taking a spelling test. A spelling test. Esteban had been absent for days, and when he finally returned, Miss Laverne asked him if he was up to doing some work, and he nodded. "It helps me to forget for a little while," he said. "Forget what?" Amari said. "That nobody knows where they took him, and now we're packing up everything," Esteban said. "Because if they took him, maybe they're going to take us too." I turned back to my test. I didn't want to think about fathers. Mine had been in prison for 8 years by then. In the last letter we'd gotten, he said he wasn't sure what would happen with his parole. If he got it, he didn't know exactly when he'd be coming home. I remember zero about living with him. Every good thing that happened had happened with my uncle. I couldn't imagine a different life. Didn't want to imagine it. Not for me, not for anyone. I was stuck on the word holiday. Did it have one L or two? My spelling had always been bad, but in Miss Laverne's class, it didn't matter so much because we were all at different levels in one thing or another. The words you miss just tell me what you don't know yet. I'm going to repeat that. The words you miss just tell me what you don't yet know, Miss Laverne always said. It says nothing about who you are. For some reason, that made me feel better. I was 11 years old. What 11-year-old didn't know how to spell holiday? Put down your pencils and come with me. The six of us stood up. Our school uniforms were white shirts and dark blue pants or skirts. We could wear any jackets, shoes, and tights we wanted. I had worn blue and white striped tights that day. Holly's tights had red stars on them. When we stood next to each other in the schoolyard that morning, our stars and stripes echoed the flag waving from the pole above us. That's a visual. We had spent the minutes before the bell rang dancing around it while Holly sang that old song about having a hammer. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out a warning. We stood next to our desk and waited for Miss Laverne to tell us what to do next. Amari pulled his hoodie over his head, then quickly pulled it off again, the way he sometimes did when he was nervous. Amari was beautiful. His skin was so dark you could almost see the color blue running beneath it. His eyes were dark too, dark like there was smoke behind his pupils, dark and serious and infinite. In that fifth, sixth grade class, I didn't know how to say any of this. I wanted only to look at him and look at him. "Take a picture. It lasts longer," Imari said to me in such a cranky way it almost brought me to tears. Ashton smirked, then pushed his hair away from his forehead and held his hand there. "She doesn't want a picture of you," Holly said. "Bad enough we have to look at you 5 days a week." She had left her desk and was heading over to the classroom library. "Holly, back to your desk," Miss Laverne said. "I want you all to take your books. You won't be coming back here today." We all gathered our stuff and followed her into the hallway. Miss Laverne took out her phone and said, "Smile, people." In the photo, Holly and I have our fingers linked together, our tights looking crazier than anything. Amari has his hood halfway on and halfway off, and Tiago, Esteban, and Ashton are all looking away from the camera. The picture is taped to my refrigerator now. We all look so young in it, our cheeks puffing out with baby fat, our uniform shirts untucked, Tiago's sneakers untied. We walked down the hall behind Miss Laverne, her heels softly clicking. I thought about how maybe one day I'd grow up to wear black shoes with small heels that clicked as I walked down a hall, and have students following behind who were a little bit in love with me. Two small kids came running down the hall, but when they saw Miss Laverne, they stopped and started walking so slowly I almost laughed. Esteban pulled his knapsack onto his shoulder and held it with both hands. You okay, bro? Amari put his hand on Esteban's arm. Nah, Esteban said, not really. Amari moved his arm over Esteban's shoulder and kept it there. And this has been our selection for today for Y18 Young Adult Teen. And our selection has been from Harbor Me by award-winning Jacqueline Woodson. And if you have a young adult or a teen, we of course, there are many books out there, and I don't think you'll be disappointed with Miss Woodson. And so, in encouraging your young adult or your teen to read, it's all about reading. We believe that literacy is extremely important, and there is nothing more than that we believe that you can provide than a love for reading. Um, just because it permeates every part of our lives. And so learning how to read has everything to do with our whole person being. That's our spirit, souls, and our bodies, our intellects, our wills, and our minds, and our choices and decisions. All of those are wrapped up in our ability to understand what is put before us, right? And so we are excited about day 19. Our selection has been Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson. We want to remind you that you can follow us online at Black Read Aloud. That is our handle on all social media, including YouTube. And we also want to remind you that we will be live at Fresh Book Festival. This week, the 24th and the 25th. We will be streaming live from there with our reads for the day. And if you are available, we want to invite you out to Fresh Book Festival, where there will be more than 40 authors and editors and narrators all around on in Daytona Beach. They will be there starting with the film festival on the 23rd at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, one of the sponsors for Fresh Book Festival. And we also will be at the Julia T. and Charles W. Cherry Senior Cultural and Educational Center in the Midtown section of Daytona Beach, Florida, on the 24th and 25th for the book festival portion. And so we would like to invite you to join us for a reading revolution. And you can get your tickets for Fresh Book Festival at freshbookfestivals.net. Students and teachers with ID are admitted for free on Friday and Saturday. Well, we are happy to have you back with us, and we're happy to be back in front of you reading again. We want to remind you that we are having a giveaway. So if you share one of our streams, we will enter you into a contest to win one of 10 very official TIG Brad t-shirts. And TIG Brad is our acronym for the International Great Black Read Aloud Day. And so get your own very personal Tig Brad t-shirt, at least your chance to win one by sharing one of our streams. And we want to remind you that we will be back tomorrow. Yes, we will. We'll be back tomorrow. And we'll be back tomorrow with day 20. Sorry about that. My head's swinging there. We'll be back with day 20. And our genre for tomorrow is thriller. And so we have something very special for you tomorrow in terms of a thriller. We are excited about it every year. We like to find things that are a little different. And so tomorrow we have a thriller for you. And this concludes our read aloud for today. And we will see you tomorrow. Actually, we'll see you later today because we've run over into our next day. All right. Keep reading. Keep helping to make sure literacy is indeed a legacy, and help us give voice to words written by Black people all around the world. Share literature, share books, share your thoughts on books, and read, read, read.